Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I look like I need a haircut and a beard shave. Well, to be fair, that's most weeks, but what are you going to do? We got a little bit of a trim right here, cleaned it up a little bit on this, but this is, kind of a disaster. This is especially a disaster right now. But you guys love to look at me look disheveled. No, you don't. Anyway, moving on. It's been a rather rough week for me. I've had a lot of distractions over the last week that have made it not so fantastic. But you know what? We're here. It's Mondays with Mr. Happy. It's the start of a new week. And man, am I playing way too many monster collecting games at the moment. So Temtem, I released a video on last week. I'm going to be playing that on January 21st, the early access. And I'll probably get done with it in a reasonable amount of time because it is early access. And it's not like everything that I need to expect and get through and hundreds of everything and the shinies. I should be able to get through it in a reasonable amount of time. Kakarot's coming out this week, and I finally started Pokemon Sword and Shield because they announced that they were doing an expansion pass instead of doing a whole new game, which I didn't care for when like Gen 7 did that. And man, I have played way too much Pokemon in the last 3 days. I got it Thursday afternoon, I'd say, and I'm at 368 of the Galar decks, I think it is. I think I need 32 more, and most of them are just weather-related or evolutions, so working on finishing that up, and then probably do some shiny hunting while I wait for Kakarot and Temtem. On top of that, we're still waiting for Final Fantasy XIV live letters. That's why there hasn't been a State of the Realm. We're really trying not to force like kind of a bullshit 45 to 60-minute show if we don't have to. We're just kind of accepting that it's in a lull season and just not forcing a show on people when there's not like a crazy amount to talk about, especially when we've covered so much over the last God knows how many years of that show and the simplification of a lot of other systems that have been in place. So just keeping you guys up to date on what I've been doing, what I've been working on, how I've been feeling, and what's coming up. There still is the verses, don't worry, those are still in the works. Slowly but surely, I've just been distracting myself way too much this last week between Temtem, Pokemon, Brave New World, Final Fantasy VII New Threat before that. I don't know if it's going to even get better this week, I'm going to be honest with you guys, but that's okay. Anyway, for this week's Mondays with Mr. Happy, though, of course, we got to thank our patrons who, through thick and thin, have supported the channel, whether it be just a handful of videos in a given week or a month, or through our insanely busy seasons where we have, a dozen videos in a week and then, 5 to 7 videos on any other given week. And then through the slow weeks like this, all of you who tune into every video, all of you who like them, all of you who support on Patreon, who get your names fancily on the screen, I want to thank all of you. And of course, our patrons of Darkness, Khuja, Janhyua, and Kurenai Oni, who have gone above and beyond with their support monetarily, and they come around and they're around all the time as well, so it's not even just monetarily, they go above and beyond in all ways. Most of you do, so I appreciate all of you. Thank you to our patrons of Darkness, thank you to our patrons, and thank you to everyone tuning in for this week's episode. And with that, let's try not to have a 50-minute episode, but if it happens, it happens. Let's get started. Alright, this is the first question I see, so I'll take it without reading it. A hashtag, Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Happy, I enjoy your content. I always look forward to your input on many different questions every week, 14 related or not, but now I have a question of my own. Ooh. On the week of this question, you talk about a scythe weapon I wanted to ask. With a Grand Cosmos having a Beastmaster kind of NPC, with a familiar being the final boss, with Rendil having a dragon and literally fusing, me and my friend are convinced the next job is Beastmaster with a pet collection system and possibly a fusion ability. So, let me finish reading it first. What would be your thoughts on this? Job weapon could also be scythe as a Beastmaster. I've used them, and Rendil also had one. Sorry if this was asked before. I'm sure it has been, but I'll give you my updated thoughts. So Beastmaster was specifically named as a candidate for limited jobs, because if they're going to do anything relating to, as you've called it, a pet collection system, something like that will immediately disqualify it from being a primary job. They will not do something that is, they basically will not introduce a job that it is up to the player to collect all the things they need to be efficient in endgame content. They will provide you with every tool. Now, of course, the possibility is always there of them just introducing them to you through job quests, having a set number of them, similar to the way Summoner does it. And if there were to be a non-limited version of the job, it would almost certainly be like that. That being said, the idea that has been presented in this question leans more towards something like the limited job feature that they've already mentioned for it. And since they've already brought it up, that is the route I think Beastmaster will go. I've always been kind of the opinion that if Final Fantasy XIV had a Beastmaster, that I'd personally prefer to see it be the Druid equivalent, where you transform into the beasts. But there are other names for that across the Final Fantasy franchise, and also a Druid-type transforming being is not incredibly common happen. It happens. We've had it before. But it's not as common as it is in other lores and other universes as it is in Final Fantasy. We're really, especially 14, it's all about like body swap, like, you know, souls and ether and stuff, and it's not really about this metamorphosis of form outside of anything but the biggest of bad guys. So that's my thoughts on it, and hopefully you enjoyed. Next one, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, howdy. Hey, happy. Hey, howdy, happy, howdy. I've been watching and playing since the second half of Stormblood, first MMO and the Final Fantasy game, so I thought I'd finally ask a question. When is the 5.2 special part broadcast? Kidding. No, you're not. You still want to know when it is. That's just not your actual question. Question is in regards to the battle system. With where we're at in Shadowbringers, things feel pretty solid. Personally, I have trouble thinking of how they'll expand combat in the future with the exception of needed balance checks and job tweaks. What kind of things do you see them doing in the next expansion to keep things fresh and interesting, or do you think they will stay relatively the same with a few action upgrades and such? I think it depends on the job. I think there are some jobs that when you nail a job in an expansion, and then you have to revamp it because you're raising the level cap because you need something new and exciting, is tough. Bard saw that when they tried to add this soul voice meter and you know, their new skills. Like, some things were basic, you know, oh, we're upgrading their dots again, and, you know, all dots are 30 seconds at all levels, and, you know, we're gonna rework the way the song buffs work a little bit, but functionally it still stayed very much the same, but it had this soul voice gauge added on, and a couple of other little things like an AoE shadow bite. On top of that, fixing up little things that were, you know, kind of a little annoying, like how unimportant Army's Payon was for the overall structure of the job. Now it actually has some benefit through your burst window, which is fairly nice. But then you have things that are more severe, like Dark Knight, which saw a complete facelift in a sense, or Machinist, which saw an even bigger facelift, so much so it was actually a brand new job as far as I'm concerned. And it's going to be about, by the end of the expansion, identifying what worked, what didn't work, and how much things need to change. So there's no way to say that now. We're not far enough in to see where the mistakes all really lie. Red Mage, I think, is getting there, and I think Monk are two jobs. Monk and Red Mage probably are jobs that need facelifts. Like, not Machinist level, maybe Dark Knight level facelifts, but they need facelifts of some kind. And I'm sure there are other concepts and other jobs that could use types of facelifts like that, but those are the two that spring to me immediately. So making sure there's a few new, like one or two new jobs. I have a personal feeling by some point they will stop doing two. I have a feeling it's going to be too much on the people who design gear. We already see issues with the amount of gear that can be released because this constant addition of, you know, two new jobs every expansion that they've been doing. I feel like at some point that bites them and they just can't keep doing it. They need to take those resources and stick them somewhere else to create either new content or new ways to enjoy the game. I don't think it's going to always be two jobs from this point on. I can't accept that it'll keep happening that way. And yeah, so having those new jobs, having jobs that are existing but feel brand new is always great. Even 5.1 Ninja is a great example of that. And making sure that what they get functionally is fun to do. And when it isn't, to fix it up as quickly as possible. That's kind of always going to be the same every expansion. I think especially from Stormblood on, to keep it relatively simple, try and make it so that it's approachable, but there's still a gap between someone who isn't as skilled and someone who is very, very skilled. But that the bottom floor is always very acceptable and fun and flashy. Next one, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, how are ya? I'm doing all right. Hopefully you're doing all right, too. Might be the only one that this infuriates, but how do you feel about potencies being 340, 560, etc.? I personally want potencies to be at 50s and 100s increments. What do you think? I think it's very arbitrary anyway, because potency, this is something, I think obviously multiples of 10 are always very appealing, whether it be 10, 100, 1,000, you know, like a certain system that everywhere other than my country decides they want to use. Which, you know, still has its ups and downs. You know, it's better than 5,100 and what is it, feet per mile? I don't even know, because I don't care, because I don't have to. It just looks nicer, but it's all relative anyway, because it isn't the number that comes out at the end regardless. Like, if something's 610 potency, right? Let's just throw that number out there. All I give a shit about is how much that skill hit for at the end of it. And I know based on it being 610 and it being higher than all these other skills, that I should expect it to hit higher. Would 600 or 650 look way nicer? Yeah, but maybe it doesn't fit into their calculations quite as well. When you restrict things to only being 50, only being 100, odds are you have things that are like for example, maybe technical step now, to emphasize its power, it needs to be 3,000 potency. because that's the equivalent to like how they do it now, because the lowest bar, instead of being 10, is now 50. So everything needs to be multiplied by 5. Actually, that would mean that technical would be like 7,500 potency under that kind of system, because it still needs to make sense in their back-end calculations. And making it so you're comfortable doing things at multiples of 10, you know, even 15, 20, like just certain numbers just fitting into the calculations and being balanced is all that matters as an end result. So as nice as it would look, I don't think it matters much at all whether it's these nice crisp numbers that you want. Next one, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hi, Mr. Happy. What abilities and or spells from other Final Fantasy games would you like to see implemented in 14? I don't really have wish lists for things like this. I just like to see the 14 team flex their creativity. I don't like to try to like enforce or impose my desires or will onto that. I want to see what they're capable of. I don't want to, that's, you know, people ask me like what thing from 7 or 6 or 10 or whatever would you want to see, like is the next 24-man raid, the next 8-man raid. I don't really want to impose that. I like to guess, because I think they'll do it. Like, you know, when the weapons, I think, was a viable guess for the next raid series. But of course, I was like, oh, I don't know, Final Fantasy 4, you know, 4 Fiends. You know, because I think that's what they'll do. They'll probably use something from an old Final Fantasy, and when it's original, it completely surprises me, and I love it. But I don't like actively desire that, if that makes sense. I don't like go, oh, I can't wait till this ability from random other Final Fantasy is in Final Fantasy 14. I want to see them when they do it. Like Eden's Eternal Breath, I've never been like, oh, I can't wait to see that in 14. But when I saw it, I was like, damn, you know, that was sick. And I like that. So I don't really have an answer to this, I don't think, because there's not, like, I don't want Omni Slash. I don't want, you know, slots. Really don't want slots from like Setzer or Ketchi or Waka or anyone. Like, I don't want it. I just want them to make something I enjoy. So that ability, the I enjoy this ability. Next one, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey there, Happy, how you doing? I'm doing alright, you doing alright. Just wanted to see if you think we'd get a Necromancer-style job in 14. If so, what style do you think it would be? So these questions, I'm getting a lot of on this episode, so occasionally I like to remind everyone that what do you think questions are kind of difficult for me. Because in my own opinion, what I think doesn't really matter so much. You know, it has no bearing on the end goal or on the result of what we actually get. And thus, you know, I don't value my opinion about these things higher than anybody else's opinion just because they're mine. So I kind of have like a hard time answering these kind of questions. But I will say specifically this one, I can answer in a very particular way. Necromancer is unlikely to ever happen in Final Fantasy XIV because messing with the dead is something that's very, very taboo. I know that in more Western-style games, it's a very, very common thing. And it's not that it doesn't happen in Eastern-style games, but it's normally viewed as not a good thing, I suppose, in a lot of more Eastern-oriented games. China, like, skeletons are outright banned. You can't have them in the games. I mean, that's a big example, and it's not necessary. Obviously, Square Enix is a Japanese company, but in Japan, I mean, messing with the dead is still something that is rather taboo. So it's just unlikely that even to appeal to a Western audience, which they have a very large Western audience, that they will do something Necromancer-ish. Now, having armies of, I don't know, ether, for example, like maybe instead of a body, you have this, like, you know, these like ether hands come out of the ground, or like these ether beings like seep up from the ground. That's close enough stylistically to a Necromancer to still be thematically close, but it wouldn't be this like dark, gritty mage that's like, you know, just has this like almost dark aura around. Like, it wouldn't be a Necromancer, you know. And I know some people are going to go be like, oh, the Necromancer is in Final Fantasy V. Yeah, you kind of got it at when it didn't matter anymore, and it was only in the special editions of Final Fantasy V, like the Steam re-release is one of them. And it was basically that you've beaten everything, congratulations, here you go job. So it wasn't like a real job. It was an end all, you're done. That's it. Go on. We're done with you kind of job. Alright, next one. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Haps. How are you? Hello, I'm doing okay. Hopefully you're doing aight. My question is a simple one. Whatever happened to Healer Happy in the Let's Play series? I really enjoyed it. It helped me be a better healer. Are you ever going to bring Healer Happy back? A big problem I ran into with Healer Happy was the videos themselves were not teaching things anymore. The main reason I got started with the Let's Play, and if you see that in the first 10 episodes especially, it was to take this experience that I didn't have. I didn't have experience with controller. I didn't have that much experience on healer. I didn't have that much experience leveling alone, which was a big thing. Like not just going on stream and looking, like, hey, who wants to do a dungeon together? Like this streamer / YouTube privilege that a lot of people have. So kind of this almost like anonymous entry into the Final Fantasy XIV world to teach people the basics, how they may experience it completely blind. There's a lot of learning involved. And even in the first episode, I'm like, you have the main story quest and all these basics that every brand new player needed to know. And as it stretches on, it becomes more of an actual Let's Play. And that's where I lose interest in it. I don't want to do a video of me doing the quests in between the level 63 and 65 dungeon. But then I also don't just want to spend 2 hours doing that off screen to then record a 20 to 30 minute video on a dungeon that I've already released a guide for in the past. And that, yeah, there are some tricks you can do, but I actually like to include little tricks that like healers and tanks can do in my dungeon guides anyway. That's why they tend to stretch on and get longer in the first place. So there's just insane disinterest in specifically pursuing a Let's Play style of video. Whereas I can take a topic and approach it and teach it in a traditional video without it being a 30, 40, 50 minute Let's Play, if that makes sense. Next one, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. First time asker, hello to you too, by the way. And been watching your video since I joined the game at 3.27. Bonus of a monk complete overhaul. Please. Second time it's come up this video already. If you have time available, I'd like to be a little cheeky and ask 2 questions. Understandable if you can only fit one, so I'll let you choose which one. Well, if I edit this down, then you'll know that I only picked one. I'll ask the slightly longer one first. I'm curious, seeing as you've met the man himself, I'd like to know how Yoshi P seems as a human being in general. That's not even a longer question. That's a cheeky question in and of itself. He's just a guy. Like, I feel like a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this too, don't get me wrong, we put people who work on YouTube, on Twitch, personalities, or in the case of Yoshi P, developers, producers, directors, we put them on pedestals like they're not people. And over the years, I've realized it's just people. Like, yes, they are responsible for something we love, and thus that creates a different connection with those kind of people. When somebody creates something you really enjoy, there's, it's unreal when you actually get to meet them. Because you've created these expectations in your head. I've done that, and I've been fortunate. The people I've met that I've looked up to have actually been, I guess, as I kind of hoped they would be. But as time has gone on, I've gotten less oh my god, about anyone. Thinking about how they're people. They drink, they eat, they sleep. Hopefully, in the case of Yoshi P, I question that a lot of the time. But that's it. That's the end of it all. Somebody may create an opportunity for you. You can be grateful for that. They may produce something that makes you laugh, that makes you cry, that it gives you the information you need, and you can be grateful for that. But we're all just people. That's it, and that's it. He's just a cool guy. He's just a dude. You could go out for a drink with him, have a laugh, and it would be no different than going out with someone you know. It's just a matter of how connected you are to the individual. So, as much as we should appreciate what he does when we like it, and of course criticize it when we don't, it's the man himself is just that, a man. So I feel like that's a life lesson, not even just a Yoshi P lesson. That's a life lesson, The shorter question is, my partner and I really love Denmo's dancing videos. When we've seen you and Sly and several others dancing, and my partner expressed a wish to join in on a future one. How exactly did you hear from Denmo about it? Is it possible to come along on these things? So first of all, I'd like to point you to a social media tool called Twitter, because Twitter is a great way of connecting with everyone in regards to seeing what they're working on, seeing what they're requesting public people for. Because obviously in the case of Denmo, you see a ton of people, not just the people who have YouTube channels, have Twitch channels, not just us, everyone, so many people. Because that's how Denmo does it. He tweets out, I need my Lalafell army, or we're doing this on this server, and people show up because they want to be a part of something that's really cool. Following anyone you want that kind of information on social media, best idea. That would be my #1 recommendation. Don't have a Twitter? Make one with no picture and just follow the people for information's sake. Just don't start tweeting 11,000 million things and then getting addicted to it. Don't do that, but just look at what other people say, and you'll be all right. So that would be my recommendation on that, and hopefully that turns out for the best for you. Thank you for your questions. All right, next one. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Haps, been watching since mid-Stormblood. I almost read that as mid-Blood Storm, and you did nothing wrong other than put a space between Stormblood, and I almost changed it myself. I'm just going to be honest. First time askers to get a bonus of the juiciest burg. Oh, I actually haven't had a burger in like... Oh, now I need a burger. Yeah. My question is, since I'm a newer player, I missed out on a lot of old content until recently with Blue Mage incentivizing synced and no echo content. I was wondering if you think the dev team would or should implement similar achievements or weekly bonuses like the Blue Mage log with old content for normal classes to give a little bit of life to old content outside of Blue Mage. What do you think they should, do you think they should make roulette solely for the binding coils, which people would want to check? No. No binding coil echo. People really underestimate how bad those are to do with completely random people. Like, yeah, whenever you see it, you're like, oh, I could do that. Yeah, but can the 7 other people do it? Not always all the way convinced. I think this is one of those things that falls under the not a bad idea category. And Final Fantasy XIV is full of a lot of things that aren't necessarily for me, but are good ideas of things to have. And I think incentivizing old content is one of the biggest things. But doing it synced, that's been the tough one, because you do get a bonus for doing minimum item level, in that you get more music sheets. You know, that's great. But here's the thing. I would never say no to a feature like this. But do I think people would use it, or would it be incentivized enough? Like, if you gave weekly cap tomestones, for example, would that be enough? With how easy it is to get them? I'm not convinced. Would you have to make like a Wondrous Tales Extreme, where it has to be done synced? Okay, maybe. But Blue Mage has an issue with getting people to actually repeat those weekly challenge logs outside of the actual initial achievement for beating them. So I question how much this would really change the way people perceive doing old content synced. But I wouldn't say don't do it, because it's really just a matter of it's just asking people to do old stuff synced. There's not like a development other than UI, and UI is a lot of resources, but that's it. There's not like a major content overhaul that needs to be done for any of that stuff. So yeah, sure, why not? Oh boy, I clicked read more, and I will have to do for this one. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays, greetings. Greetings to you as well. First time question, well, welcome. PvE is my primary source of entertainment, and I am well past, I don't know why all of a sudden I've taken on this accent, well past character growth and backlogs of content to do or even find fun anymore. I tend to play only this game as a sub-based MMO, but I feel like it should be enough. This has been my theme for about 2 months already, and I still have another month to go. I've never felt it so drastically... I never felt it this drastically or long, and I come from the 1.0 launch, so that is saying something. All crafts and gatherers fully leveled, geared, raids cleared many times over, all jobs leveled that I want, progressing on Ultimate 3 days a week, tomes capped by Thursday at the latest, available quest 100% complete, leaving Friday through Monday with nothing. I like helping raid clear groups, but that has thinned out in the party finder lately. Guild farm nearly useless, and not interested in the gold sauce or Blue Mage PvP or really any amount of your farm. In-game answers usually get reply with, learn to like other content or games. So bored right now. Why? Something feels missing. Well, the relic. When the relic comes around, I guarantee you that whole thing, you just go nuts on it. I guarantee it. I promise you that will be the thing that you end up spending that extra time on. And I'm reading you. You are the kind of person who will grind every single one. And I will wonder how you did it or why you did it. But you'll have done it. And you'll be able to say to people you did it. And they'll be like, you're crazy. And you'll be like, damn right I am. Yeah, the relic quest will probably help you out with this a good bit, is what I'm saying. So, other than that, good luck. You can make characters on other data centers and like have like raid groups on multiple data centers if you really wanted to. You could. Well, you said no PvP. You could. There's another thing I was gonna say. You could raid on more than one job, like even on the same character, filling in the other days. You could that's still not the second thing I said, was still not the thing I was thinking. There's one other thing I'm thinking of. You could try selling Palace of the Dead in Heaven on high to 100, 200, but good luck with that. I can't remember the other thing I was going to say. Or, unfortunately, yeah, it is just a matter of playing other games and not trying to devote all your time to one. I made that mistake with Final Fantasy XI. I missed so many other good games throughout the Final Fantasy XI era of me playing, and I regret it so much now. Don't be me. Don't be me. I warn you. Next one, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Hey, I got a question about raiding trends. Ooh, this will be fun. I managed to complete all of Eden Savage through the use of the Party Finder, which, contrary to what people say, is actually fun. Depends on your definition of fun some of the time. After getting all my gear for Warrior, I decided to take a break from raiding and focusing on other things. Back now, I want to jump into doing the Epic of Alexander, but am I too late to start fresh? I'd say starting fresh, no, you're not too late. Doing it blind, rough call. Rough one if you really want to do it blind. First time getting into raiding, solely use the party. Yeah, so Party Finder Epic of Alexander is a lot different. Party Findering Ultimate is a much different life to ultimating. Ultimating. We'll go with that. I already committed. To Party Findering Ultimate. Because it is a whole different demand on the individual, and the people who beat the raids through the Party Finder don't necessarily want to do Epic of Alexander through the Party Finder, so you may need a static for that one. I'm just gonna be honest with you for that. Even if you're just filling for a group that, like, you know people in, that might be the way to go. All right, next one. I actually had to skip one because it's very similar to another question. It was about adding a new healer, and I think I've taken that question in the recent weeks, so I skipped that one for full disclosure. Hashtag question, hashtag Senor Happy. Senor Feliz, you mean? That's what you mean. 2 questions. Hello to you too, by the way. 1, do you think Yoshi P... Oh, there, you said hello in the first question. I wasn't ready for that. You caught me off guard. Do you think Yoshi P and the dev might someday return Savage closer to Gordius Midas? No. Second question. To elaborate, no, it won't ever happen. Gordius almost single-handedly reburied Final Fantasy XIV into obscurity, and it's only because 3.2 and onward they were able to A, come up with a better content structure, and B, finally get the raid scene. Because Midas did nothing to help the raid scene. It was just as brutal on the raid scene as Gordius was, if not more so. Because a lot of people didn't even... Let's just put it this way. Midas got nerfed, like... what, 4 weeks after it came out, the second fight got nerfed? I don't even know if it was 4 weeks when they nerfed A6 Savage. That's how much damage Midas was still doing to the raid scene. And that matters. Getting, in terms of, like, active player base, getting people into the raid scene matters a lot. And they've realized that over the years. No, that's never happening. Ultimate is going to be for that hyper challenge, and Savage ain't never going to be again. 2, now the healer DPS has been simplified. It's pretty mundane to say the least. Would reintroducing something akin to Cleric Stance be welcoming to 14, or is it better left forgotten? So this is a matter of preference. I don't think there's a right answer to this. And I've seen other healers ask for something a little bit more committal in regards to doing DPS, and that's kind of what Cleric Stance brought. When you committed to Cleric Stance for the next 5 seconds, that decision better have been the right one, because you do not have a way to fix it. And I think that that's the main thing they're trying to avoid. I mean, even you can see it with tanks. Tanks now don't have to decide between being in DPS stance or tank stance. Their job is to tank, and the damage they deal alongside of that will be, you know, what it is. And they don't have to toggle it on and off to be the one doing, you know, decent damage, to show a showcase of skill. They just need to understand how their job functions, but how their role functions while doing that job. Healers have fell into that same way of thinking back in Stormblood when Cleric Stance was changed to be a role action and just increase, you know, some damage dealt for, you know, a short time. They wanted it to no longer be you're a healer, but you know, at least for the next 5 seconds, you're committing to be full DPS. They wanted to be something you could turn on and off as a decision in an instant by pressing an ability, and they don't want that ability to have like a long committal to it. Like things like Berserk and Tank Stance used to, and like old Cleric Stance. No, they will probably never reintroduce it for that sole reason. The biggest thing, it's a noob trap. If somebody doesn't understand how it works, but their friend told them, oh yeah, just turn on Cleric Stance DPS, and then that person's like, oh shit, okay, Cleric Stance, bam, okay, wow, yeah, look at all that damage. Oh shit, oh I gotta heal him. Oh shit, why is it not working? Oh shit, I forgot to turn Cleric Stance off. Noob trap. And they're trying to avoid that. That's part of their effort to bring up the floor of the player base, which only works so much, but it certainly works. And that's probably going to remain so forever. All right, next one. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Haps, how you doing today? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. I tend to be way too busy to spend a ton of time on gaming these days. 2 jobs, planning a wedding. Congratulations. I just caught up with the main scenario and really want to try out the Copied Factory. I never raided previously. None of my friends play the game on PS4. Oh, dude, this 24 man, you just duty finder it and you'll be done in 30 minutes. You're done. That's it. 24 mans are never a question mark. If this was a question about Savage or Ultimate, no, you're fine. No, this is literally 30 minutes of your life. Get it done. On top of that, maybe make some time to watch the cutscenes before and after. But like for the actual copied factory itself, dude, just go. You're good. You don't need to think about it. Oh, I know who's asking this question. I can already tell you guys before reading it, there's probably a bear pun in this. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Appy, first question in the year, so let me wish you a good 2020, and I hope all your ambitions bear. Man. So for my question, I've been leveling Astro, and I find it hard to notice when draw comes off cooldown and is ready for another card. Do you think they should add some kind of cooldown counter timer to the Astro job gauge to make it easier to notice this? Related, do you think there's something they could add to other jobs as well? So streamlining this kind of stuff is, never a bad thing. I would say specifically in the case of draw, you probably would make really good use of putting a button that has no, taking a full hotbar, right? And placing it somewhere on the screen with draw. Don't bind a button to it, but just put it somewhere where you will always see it. And then there's no way you'll ever forget that it's on cooldown. That's something that I like to do. I like to gravitate the more important things to me towards the center of the screen. Because no matter what, I find that if you're someone who tunnel visions and you're not noticing things like this, if you basically identify where the end of the tunnel is in your tunnel vision, and you place UI elements there, that are active and moving and important, that it kind of just naturally expands your tunnel because you're trying to like fit the UI elements into your tunnel because it's invading the space. And then if you set it up in a certain way, then eventually it expands outward and you see everything you need to see in a given encounter. And I feel that way about the Astro cards too. Astro card is an ability that I do put closer to the center of the screen so that this exact train of thought can actually take place. So that would be my thing, but making it so it shows on the gauge? Sure. Why not? They've been doing better and better at that stuff. Why not? Alright, we're doing 35 minutes. I think we're doing okay. I don't know how many questions we have left, though. Hashtag Mrhappy Monday. Hello. Mr. Happy. Hello. First time asker here and have something you like. You got too many first time bonuses to know what to give you. Dude, meat. Alright? Meat is always the answer. I can always eat more meat. Anyway, my question is twofold. Would you like that all PvE content would auto-sync to your level like ESO? And two, do you think it's possible in 14 with all the tech debt that they have, even though they've started to work towards it in Shadowbringers? So one, no. It doesn't make any sense to do it that way. We actually had a question very similar to that last week about syncing content up to the player versus, and then I answered it comparing it to syncing the player down to content but keeping all of their abilities. No, because then levels are just a meaningless thing. I think ESO's one Tamriel where you can go to any zone and level is perfect for an Elder Scrolls game. A game that, while it does have a story that begins somewhere and ends somewhere, your experience in between is so totally up to you. That is a very Elder Scrolls identity level adjustment that they made, and it's one of my favorite things ESO did to really remind you you're playing an Elder Scrolls game, even if it is an MMO at the same time. 14 is a big no on that because there's no point in it per se. You have to follow the story. It's not an option from beginning to end, and giving you that freedom to go anywhere in between doesn't help at all because the number of things to do is completely locked behind how much story you've done. There's no activities you can get to in advance that will assist you in the earlier activities because they're all locked behind the main scenario and your level at the same time. So it just doesn't make any sense. Now, is it possible in 14? I don't want to say it isn't, but I don't think it would be worth overcoming the technical debt they have, nor do I think technical debt is even really a factor in determining why they would or would not do this. I think it literally just comes down to it would not be worth the effort with the way Final Fantasy XIV is designed. All right, next one. Hi, Haps. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays, by the way. Hello. Wish you were feeling better this week and 99 potions for you. 99 potions of health on the wall. 99 potions of health. You take one down, pass it around. 98 potions of health on the wall. Good question. Do you think Titan Extreme or E4 Savage is the more difficult fight? Oh, E4 Savage. That's an easy one. To me, E4 Savage has much more mechanics, but my memory of Titan Extreme are much tighter. Secondly, do you think E8 Savage will be Garud or Ifrit? So second question, no. I hope it's Shiva. I don't think Garud or Ifrit deserve to have, to be the final fight in a raid tier. They just don't. Ifrit's kind of lame in this game. Like, he looks cool, but, like, from a functional, like, gameplay state, he's kind of lame. I'm Ifrit, and Garuda's just, you know, whatever. That's when it's like, the Titan is kind of like that, but the people's memory of him is so much more severe. Even just like you asking this question is proof enough of that. And then Shiva has such a deep story and emotional element that it could be such a fitting final fight. Ramu is a close second, and if there's a different primal, I think it'd be him, not Leviathan, not... well, and then we've already done... Yeah, and then not Ifrit, not Garuda. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's where I stand on that. But no, yeah, for the first question, yeah, definitely E4 Savage. Titan Extreme. Here's the thing. Titan Extreme feels harder for its time. We were all... Dude, I watched old footage of me, World First teams, how fucking bad we were comparatively back then. Like, just things that we did and things that we thought were good and worked or just got us through. I watched the World First for turn 5 and turn 9, and it is so hard watching the healers sit there and do fucking nothing. Because it just wasn't, nobody was thinking of even playing that way yet. And it's like, oh my god, these would have been so much easier if you went back in time now and told the healers, yo, if you don't need to be healing, yo, can you just throw on Cleric Stance and throw a few dots? And I guarantee you we get World First. And they'll be like, pfft, and then they do it, and they're like, holy shit, we're gods! And then you look like the innovators on the world. Dude, it would be a whole different game. Titan Extreme also is pretty easy. I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't that bad. It was still the era where you could fall off permanently, so a lot of people have some pretty bad memories of it. But Titan Extreme was after they fixed the innate latency the game had being 300 MS and brought it down to 100 MS. And overall, it was just a matter of just timing. But no, E4 Savage. If I were to put them side by side right now, E4 Savage, definitely. Next one, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hello, Haps. I have a question regarding Final Fantasy New Threat. New Threat, but I have a feeling that was an accident, so you're good. And its difficulty. I was only able to catch short bits of your stream playthrough. I recall, at least early on in the Midgar section, you were often focused on morphing and stealing from various enemies. Is this something I should have to expect to do in the mod? Or was this more from completionist's sake? So, I actually regretted doing that, because the specific thing I was told in the documentation for New Threat was the emphasis on morphing being available earlier. And that if you were willing to morph bosses, you'd get items way earlier than you're supposed to, so there's a clear power gain from doing something like that. When I look back at my whole playthrough and how much those items I morphed for were actually in effect and the reason why I was having an easier time, the answer is almost never. I can think of maybe one time I think I had like a ring earlier that was like really, really useful, and I think it was right after I got out of the cave, right after I got out of the dark cave. And I was going to Junon. But no, I kind of regret spending so much time doing it. I could have had so much more progress on getting through New Threat. Stealing, there were more, I'd say stealing was actually a little more important because it was a little easier to do. It was easy to just, steal from a mob. If I didn't get the right thing, reset to the save point, take 20 seconds to do that. As opposed to getting a boss down to like 900 health and having to morph for like no damage over and over and over and over again, but needing to survive at the... Ugh, that was atrocious. No, you don't have to do that. You don't need to do that. If you want to and you want to be like me, go ahead, but you do not have to do that. All right, we're coming up on the 40-minute mark in terms of my actual recording time, so I'll probably take this and one more and then call it an episode. And this one looks like it's a re-ask from last week, so we'll see how it is. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays, hashtag just one question, hashtag re-ask from last week. Hi, Happy. How you doing? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. Just had a quick question for you today. Is Thancred actually blind in one eye now? I don't remember. So the thing with Thancred is that he's ethereally blind in a sense, where he basically can't tap into his body's ether in any way. It's gotten so bad to the point where when we actually see him and Reen in Shadowbringers, she has to ethereally charge his Gunbreaker's weapons ammo. And when you bring them along for things like Trust Dungeons, she occasionally throws him loaded ammo to do a gnashing Fang combo. But him actually losing sight in the eye, I feel like I recall him saying there being an explanation for that and it not actually being that. I think it was to hone his senses in a sense, because that way, bringing, narrowing his actual sense of vision gave him some sort of narrowed vision. But no, I don't think he's actually blind altogether. I just know that he can't access his ether properly. But I don't actually remember. Yeah, that last section here, too, about Tesleen that you got. Yeah, that's a sad thing to remember. Yeah, I don't really have a great answer. Maybe that's why I skipped it last week, because I was like, I don't really know. But I tried this week. So I think that was fortunate enough for me to really need to be the last question. There's a joke question here. Who would win in a fight? Ultra Instinct, Shaggy, and Eye of Nidhogg, Estinian. Shaggy. Why is that even a question? Come on now. And then there's another one asking if I bring certain guests on the podcast. And that one, that one's kind of like really on the spot, because the answer is never no. It just things need to line up in such a way that we can invite guests on for certain things, and it needs to line up in terms of schedule. I've had a lot of issues with scheduling a lot of podcast guests in the past, unfortunately. So yeah, those kind of questions are kind of hard. They're very on the spot style questions that I don't really have like answers for the person asking about. They're more like things that I may discuss with the individuals in question behind the scenes. It's weird. I don't know really how to describe it, but it doesn't. Asking for certain guests on Mondays with Mr. Happy just doesn't... Almost feels like I have to say yes and then do it immediately. And that's the only correct answer. And not like... I can't say yes, but it needs to make sense for a certain topic, which is the real answer. And I don't know. It's a weird question. I just don't know really how to answer it in a not awkward way. But that's going to be a wrap for me for this episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy, because I think with those two that I just threw in there as sort of bonuses, that we have answered every question. So, thank you for asking your questions for this week. Be sure to ask your questions for next week under the video, and be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share for the next episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. We'll see what we get out video-wise this week. I still don't think Casterverses will be out this week, and I don't know about State of the Realm, so it might be another light week. January is a pretty good month to be light, because it's the worst month of the year for YouTube in regards to monetary return, but I'm not doing it on purpose because of that. It's just been that way for me with all these distractions with these other games. I just do more videos on those other games. It's realistically what it should be, but I'm having too much fun. I'm not thinking about it too much. So thank you for watching. Thank you to our patrons. Thank you to everyone who tunes in every week, and I will see you all next week for Mondays with Mr. Happy. Thank you, and until then, take care.